This is just going to be a quick video going through how to deduce the ionic formulae of compounds. In chemistry, when we say ionic formula, we're referring to the formula of the compound. So for example, for sodium chloride, we'd be saying, is the ionic formula NaCl? Is it NaCl2, Na2Cl? And a variety of other numbers. It's working out which of those formulae would be correct. And it all depends on the group numbers of the ions in the compound. So sodium is a metal and so forms a positive ion, and chloride is the ion of chlorine, which is a non-metal and therefore negative ion. Now, before we go much further with this, there are some compound ions that you need to be aware of. Now, compound ions are where you've got multiple elements that are joined together with a charge. The carbonate ion is CO3 2-. That's one carbon atom and 3 oxygens all joined together, and then the 2- charge is over the whole of that compound ion. Sulfate is SO4 2-, that's sulfur and oxygen. Nitrate is NO3-. Hydroxide is OH-, and then ammonium is NH4+. Now for GCSE, these all need to be learnt, and that's names and formulae. So when it comes to working out the formula of a compound, we need to take the elements in the compound into account. Now magnesium, Mg, is in group 2 of the periodic table. That means that it has 2 outer shell electrons, like that. Oxygen is in group 6, and that means that it has 6 outer shell electrons. Now compounds form because elements need to have full outer shells in order to be stable. Metals always lose electrons and non-metals always gain electrons. And if we look, magnesium has got 2 electrons to lose, whereas oxygen needs to gain 2 in order to get a full outer shell with 8 electrons. So what happens in this case is that the magnesium gives both of its electrons to the oxygen. This forms a magnesium 2+ ion, and it's a 2+ as it's given away 2 negative electrons, and we get the oxide ion that has gained the 2 electrons from magnesium and therefore is a 2- ion. Now because we only need 1 magnesium and 1 oxygen in order for both of them to end up with full outer shells, the ionic formula of magnesium oxide is MgO, 1 magnesium and 1 oxygen. To look at another example, we can look at magnesium chloride. Now magnesium, we've just said, is in group 2, so has 2 outer shell electrons. Chlorine is in group 7 and so has 7 outer shell electrons. Chlorine needs to gain 1, so the magnesium gives an electron to the chlorine, enabling chlorine's full outer shell and therefore become a chloride ion. but we've still got an electron on magnesium that needs to be lost in order for magnesium to have a full outer shell. Now the only place that magnesium can give that electron to would be another chlorine, because in magnesium chloride the only elements present are magnesium and chlorine. So we need another chlorine for the second electron to be given to. And this means that the formula of magnesium chloride would be MgCl2. To look at a third example, we could go for lithium sulfide. Lithium is in group 1, so has one outer shell electron. Sulfur is in group 6. So lithium needs to lose one electron, but sulfur needs to gain 2. Lithium gives its electron to sulfur, which means that this lithium now has a full outer shell, but the sulfur still has an electron missing. It needs 8 to fill its shell. So that means that we need a second lithium that can give its electron to sulfur, causing sulfur to have a full outer shell with 8 electrons, and we have 2 lithiums that have both lost their outer shell electron and are therefore stable. And the formula of lithium sulfide would therefore be Li2S, because we need 2 lithiums and 1 sulfur. Now we've come to an example that has a compound ion, and this is one of the ones we said before that we need to know, CO3 2-. So you must make sure that you know that formula. Now calcium is in group 2, which means that it has 2 outer shell electrons that it needs to lose, and it will do that and end up forming the calcium ion. Now by losing 2 negative electrons, it ends up being a 2+ ion left behind. So calcium 2+ and CO3 2-. How many of each do we need to form a neutral compound overall? Well, it's just one of each, because Ca2+ and CO3 2-, the charges cancel. +2 - 2 equals 0. And so the formula of calcium carbonate is CaCO3. One final example just to look at, we've got calcium nitrate. Now nitrate is another compound ion that you need to know, and that's NO3-. And we just said that the calcium ion is Ca2+ because it's in group 2. So Ca2+ and NO3-. We need the same number of charges so that they cancel out and we have a 0 charged compound. Now that means that we need 2 nitrates, so that we have a 2- overall from the nitrate, and the 2+ overall will be 0. So the formula of calcium nitrate will be CaNO3 in brackets and then a 2. And just what this means is that there's 2 lots of everything inside that bracket. If you're still a little bit stuck with any of those, please let me know by sending me a message.